In this video, we'll take a look at how students' work through Math Partners will evolve through Units 5, 6, and 7. In Unit 5, the main focus standard that we will be working with is OA3, where students will decompose numbers less than or equal to 10 into pairs. As students begin their work with this unit, we can start to layer in their background experiences with subitizing, especially as we're focusing on ways to make numbers with 5 and under. So in the beginning of some of these lessons in Unit 5, we are very concrete. So students should have manipulatives that they're working with, and a lot of the lessons have different stories to kind of switch up and make their focus a little bit different, so that it does feel like they're not doing the same thing every day, but the standard is being enforced each day. So one of the things they'll do in the beginning is use counters so that way they can see the color change, and hopefully we'll be able to link back to subitizing to also see that 3 and 2 are the same value as 5. And so that's some of the language that we do want to bring in as we're beginning this unit, and also linking back to some of the subitizing work that they have done. So as students are beginning their work with partners, another thing that is helpful for them to be able to do when they want to be able to find multiple combinations of ways to make numbers is to also use their math notebook to create a quick picture. In the beginning, students can bring in color to help make sure that it matches what they're seeing with their manipulatives. Students can also begin to layer in adding labels to their pictures. This is more helpful when we start to move up with higher combinations, and it may not be quite as easy for students to subitize the amounts that they're working with, especially as we get closer to 10. And that way they can start to see those number pairs show up and be reinforced more often while they're being matched with their picture. Another thing that can be helpful for students when they're using their math partners is to also have available a break apart stick. This also becomes more helpful when we do use different manipulatives in the classroom where the manipulatives appearance cannot be changed. For example, a lot of the squares or other shapes that we use to reinforce that language as well. So a break apart stick can also be helpful. And then as their pictures don't have to match perfectly because they start to gain more comfortableness with their work, then we can start to use the break apart stick to really reinforce those two separate parts that make the whole of 5. Some students will come to this lesson ready to use plus and equal signs, but again, that is not match part of our standard or our expectations. So while we can front load that when we're looking at creating a grade for the students and their abilities, that should not be factored in. We also like to bring in some other organization pieces that can help. So some of the lessons will have a 5 frame in them. So this can also help the students as they're starting to layer in their pieces and then turn their counters, so they can also use that. And then as we get more of their partners, we can move up to a 10 frame, so they can start to see that organization piece that we're doing. When we are headed to theirs, not all of the lessons have a 10 frame loaded into their work or their mats, but especially as we start to get to working with larger numbers, in the unpacking document, you will notice that when building 9, they have done it in a long line. Based upon the students' previous experiences with our counting and cardinality unit, we can bring in a little bit more organization to make it easier for students to start to see those numbers, because if we keep it in this long line and a student gets confused or needs to go back and double check, they're going to have to count by ones to figure out which amount they do have. Whereas if we start to use those subitizing pieces that we did earlier in the year, they can hopefully start to use those relationships that they've already built in counting and cardinality in this as well to improve their fluency and make them more comfortable working a little bit faster with numbers. As we start to bump up, because we will do partners all the way up to 10, it is also helpful if this is reflected in their math notebook. So even in the lessons where they're not specifically building in the 10 frame, if a student is inconsistent or needs support, you can bring back the 10 frame for them to set up. But hopefully, as students become more comfortable being able to work through this amount, they can do it on their own. And then this will also translate into their math notebook where their organization will show up and they will be able to draw amounts that they can subitize as well. This will be especially important in first grade that their drawings stay organized as we look to them doing quick pictures for much larger numbers than just within 10. So we will hit this standard up to 10, working on different ways and combinations. And then as they start to progress from Unit 5 into Unit 6, we'll keep these same story problems and we'll keep these same partners as we layer in story problems. The main use of partners will show up when we do missing add-in because students are expected to show more than one answer to the problem. And then hopefully by the time we get to Unit 7, they have had a lot of experiences with seeing these partners show up. And so we will start to layer in some of that fluency and see some of the fluency show up through games that we'll do with these partners.